You are walking along a quiet road in England. The night is soft around you. The air smells of rain that fell hours ago. The pavement is still damp. Your footsteps make small sounds that echo just a little. You are alone, or at least you think you are. The streetlights glow orange. They cast long shadows that stretch across the road. The shadows are thin and dark. They move when you move. They are quiet companions. England is old. You know this already. Everyone knows this. The country has layers of history stacked upon each other like blankets on a cold bed. Centuries fold into centuries. Stories fold into stories. Some of these stories are about kings and queens. Some are about wars and castles. Some are about ordinary people doing ordinary things. And some are about dogs. Not ordinary dogs. Not the kind that wag their tails and fetch sticks. These are different. These are black dogs. Very black dogs. Dogs so black they seem to absorb the light around them. Dogs that appear on roads like this one. Dogs that walk beside travelers. Dogs that vanish when you blink. Dogs that might be omens or guardians or something else entirely. No one is quite sure. You have heard stories about these dogs before. Maybe you heard them as a child. Maybe you read them in a book. Maybe someone told you about them over tea on a rainy afternoon. The stories are old. They are older than your grandparents. They are older than your great-grandparents. They are older than the streets you walk on now. And they are still being told. People still see the black dogs. Or they think they do. Or they want to believe they do. It is hard to say. The road stretches out before you. It curves gently to the left. Trees line both sides. Their branches hang over the road like arms reaching toward each other. The leaves are dark green. They rustle softly in the breeze. The sound is soothing. It is the kind of sound that makes you feel like the world is much bigger than you are, and much quieter. You keep walking. Your pace is steady. There is no rush. There is nowhere you need to be, right this moment. Time moves slowly here. It always has. England has a way of making time feel thick and heavy, like honey, like fog, like the past is always just behind you, breathing softly on the back of your neck. The black dog legends are scattered all across England. They are in Cornwall and Devon. They are in Yorkshire and Norfolk. They are in the Midlands and the North. Every region has its own version. Every village has its own story. The dogs have different names depending on where you are. Some call them Black Shuck. Some call them Barguest. Some call them Padfoot, or Skriker, or Hairy Jack. The names change, but the essence remains the same. A large black dog, glowing eyes, a presence that feels both ancient and immediate. You pass a fence. It is wooden and weathered. Paint peels from the slats in long curling strips. Beyond the fence is a field. The grass is tall. It sways in the breeze like water. You can hear it. A soft shushing sound. Like someone telling secrets. Like someone asking you to be quiet. To listen. To pay attention. The first recorded sighting of a black dog in England dates back centuries. The stories are woven into church records and local histories. They are carved into the wood of old pews and whispered in the corners of ancient pubs. One of the most famous tales comes from a church in Bungay, Suffolk. It was August 4th, 1577. A Sunday. The congregation had gathered for morning service. Outside, a storm raged. Thunder rolled across the sky. Lightning cracked the air. Rain pounded the roof. And then, according to the accounts, a black dog appeared inside the church. The dog ran through the aisles. It moved with impossible speed. People screamed. They scattered. The dog's eyes glowed red. Its fur was darker than the storm outside. It passed between two men kneeling in prayer. Both men fell dead. The dog continued. It reached another man and mauled him. The man survived, but was left badly injured. Then the dog vanished. It disappeared as suddenly as it had arrived. The only evidence of its presence was the scorch marks it left on the church door. Those marks, some say, can still be seen today. You have reached a crossroads. 4 roads meet here. They form a perfect cross. In older times, crossroads were considered places of power, places where the veil between worlds was thin, places where travelers might encounter things that were not quite of this world. You stand at the center for a moment. You look down each road. They all look the same. Dark, empty, quiet. You choose one and continue walking. The legend says the black dog is an omen. Some believe it foretells death. If you see the black dog, someone you know will die soon. Or perhaps you will die. The timing is never clear. The details are always vague. Other versions of the story are kinder. They say the black dog is a protector. It walks with travelers to keep them safe. It guards lonely roads. It watches over those who wander at night. In these versions, the dog is not something to fear. It is something to be grateful for. You think about this as you walk. Which version would you prefer? A guardian or an omen? A companion or a warning? Perhaps it does not matter. Perhaps the dog is both. Perhaps it is neither. Perhaps it is simply a mystery that refuses to be solved. The road narrows. The trees grow closer. Their trunks are thick and gnarled. The bark is rough. It looks like skin that has seen too much sun and too much rain. Moss grows in patches, green and soft. It glows faintly in the dim light. You reach out and touch a tree as you pass. The bark is cool and damp. It feels solid, real, comforting. Black dogs appear most often at night. They are creatures of darkness and shadow. They are rarely seen in daylight. When they are seen, it is usually on roads like this one. Quiet roads, country roads, roads where few people travel, roads where the modern world has not quite taken hold. The dogs are always large, much larger than ordinary dogs. Some descriptions say they are the size of calves. Others say they are the size of ponies. Their fur is always black, so black it seems unnatural, and their eyes always glow, red or green or yellow. The color varies, but they always glow. You wonder what it would be like to see such a creature. Would you be frightened? Would you run? Or would you stand still and watch? Would you feel the urge to reach out and touch it, to see if it is real, to see if your hand would pass through it like smoke? The stories suggest that the black dog does not always behave the same way. Sometimes it simply appears and walks alongside a traveler for a while. It does not speak. It does not make a sound. It just walks. Its pace matches yours. If you speed up, it speeds up. If you slow down, it slows down. And then, after a time, it vanishes. It fades into the darkness or steps off the road and disappears into the trees. The traveler is left alone again, wondering if it ever really happened. Other times, the black dog behaves more aggressively. It blocks the road. It growls. Its eyes flash. It bares its teeth. Travelers who encounter this version of the dog report feeling a deep sense of dread, a coldness that seeps into their bones, a certainty that something terrible is about to happen, but often nothing does. The dog eventually moves aside or disappears. The traveler continues on their way, shaken but unharmed. You pass a cottage. It is small and squat. The roof is thatched. The windows are dark. No light shines from within. Smoke does not rise from the chimney. It looks abandoned. Or perhaps the people inside are simply asleep. It is late, after all, or early, depending on how you measure time. The line between night and morning is blurry here. The landscape is changing now. The trees are thinning. The road is climbing. You are ascending onto higher ground. The air feels different here, thinner, colder. There is a sharpness to it that wakes you up, makes you more alert, more aware of your surroundings. This is moorland, Yorkshire moorland, vast and open and ancient. The road is narrower here, less defined. It is more of a track than a proper road. gravel and dirt packed down by centuries of use. On either side, the moor stretches out into darkness, rolling hills covered in heather and bracken. During the day, the heather blooms purple, a sea of color that ripples in the wind. But at night, everything is black. The purple is invisible. The moor becomes a void, an emptiness that seems to go on forever. You can hear the wind here. It sweeps across the open land without obstruction. It whistles and moans. It carries sounds from far away. The bleating of sheep, the cry of a night bird, the rustle of dry grass. These sounds feel both close and distant. They seem to come from everywhere and nowhere. The moor has a way of playing tricks with sound, with distance, with perception. The heather is thick beside the road. It grows in dense clumps. Tough and wiry, it scratches against your legs as you walk. The stems are woody. They have survived countless winters, countless storms. They bend, but they do not break. They are resilient, patient. They have been here long before you. They will be here long after you are gone. There are rocks scattered across the moor, large granite stones. Some are smooth and rounded. Others are jagged and sharp. They jut up from the earth like bones, like the skeleton of the land itself pushing through the soil. Lichen grows on these stones, gray and green and orange. It spreads in circular patterns, slow and inexorable. A different kind of time. Geological time? Time measured in decades and centuries rather than seconds and minutes. The sky above the moor is enormous. It stretches from horizon to horizon without interruption. No trees block the view. No buildings intrude, just sky. Vast and dark and filled with stars. More stars than you have seen in years. More stars than you remember existing. They are scattered across the blackness like salt spilled on a table. Dense and bright and ancient. The light you are seeing left those stars hundreds of years ago. Thousands of years ago. Some of those stars might not even exist anymore. They might have burned out long ago, but their light continues. Traveling through space. Reaching your eyes here on this lonely moor in the middle of the night, the Barghest walks these moors. That is what the locals say. The Barghest is the Yorkshire version of the black dog. It is said to be even larger than the dogs of other regions. More aggressive, more dangerous. It appears on nights like this, when the wind is strong and the sky is clear. It stalks the moorland paths. It follows travelers. Sometimes it leads them astray, deeper into the moor, away from the paths, into bogs and marshes where they can become lost, where they can disappear. There are bogs out there in the darkness, pools of black water hidden among the heather. They look solid from a distance. The surface is covered with moss and grass, but underneath there is no ground, just water, deep and cold and dark. If you step on one, you break through, you sink. The bog pulls you down. It holds you, and if you are alone, if there is no one to help you, you do not get out. People have died in these bogs, sheep and cattle too. Their bodies are sometimes found weeks or months later, preserved by the acidic water, the peat. They look almost alive, almost as if they might open their eyes and speak, but they do not. They are long dead. The bog has taken them, claimed them, made them part of itself. You walk carefully. You stay on the path. You watch where you put your feet. The darkness makes it hard to see. You use the stars to guide you. The faint glow on the horizon, the pale line where sky meets earth. These are your reference points, your anchors in the vastness. A sheep bleats somewhere to your left. The sound is sudden, loud. It startles you. Your heart jumps. You stop and look, but you see nothing, just darkness and heather. The sheep bleats again, farther away now, moving. You relax, just a sheep, nothing more. But for a moment, for just a brief moment, you wondered. You thought maybe. Maybe it was something else, something larger, something with glowing eyes. The wind picks up. It rushes across the moor with renewed force. It pushes against you, makes you lean forward to keep your balance. Your clothes flap and snap. Your hair whips across your face. The wind carries scents with it. Wet earth, decaying vegetation, the faint mineral smell of stone, and something else. Something you cannot quite identify. Something wild and old and strange. The path begins to descend. You are leaving the high moor, heading down toward lower ground, toward shelter. The heather gives way to grass. Shorter grass, easier to walk through. The wind lessens slightly. The land is folding around you, providing a bit of protection, a bit of relief from the exposure. There is a stone wall ahead, old and crumbling, built from the same granite that litters the moor. The stones are fitted together without mortar, dry stone walling, a skill that has been practiced here for centuries. The wall marks a boundary, a division between wild land and cultivated land, between the moor and civilization. You climb over a stile in the wall, wooden steps built into the stone, worn smooth by countless feet. You place your hand on the top stone for balance. It is cold and rough, solid. You step over and continue down the path. The landscape has changed again. You are in a different part of England now. The moors are gone. The hills are gone. Everything is flat here, completely flat. The land stretches out in all directions without variation, without feature. It is disorienting. You have nothing to measure your progress against. No landmarks, no reference points, just flatness. This is Fenland, East Anglia, some of the lowest lying land in all of England, land that was once underwater, land that was drained centuries ago to create farmland. The soil here is rich, black and fertile. Crops grow well, but the land remembers what it was. It wants to return to water. It seeps and pools. It floods when the rains are heavy. It resists human control. The road is straight here, perfectly straight. It runs along the top of a low embankment, a bank raised up to keep the water at bay. On either side of the road there are drainage ditches, deep channels filled with dark water. The water is still. It does not flow. It just sits there, waiting, reflecting nothing. The air smells of water and mud, of vegetation rotting in shallow pools, of fish and reeds and algae. It is not an unpleasant smell, just distinctive, primordial, the smell of a place that is neither land nor water, a place in between. The sky here is even bigger than it was on the moors. There are no hills to break the horizon, no trees, just flat land and endless sky. The stars are reflected in the drainage ditches. They shimmer on the still water. It looks like the sky extends below you as well as above, like you are walking through space. Suspended between two galaxies. There are no sounds here, no wind, no animals, no rustling grass, just silence, deep and complete. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring, that makes you aware of your own heartbeat, your own breathing. You become the loudest thing in the landscape. Your footsteps on the road, the rustle of your clothes, the intake of your breath, all of it amplified by the silence around you. Black Shuck walks these fens. That is the name used here in East Anglia. Black Shuck. The most famous of all the black dogs. The one with the most sightings, the most stories. Black Shuck has been seen on these flat roads for centuries, walking beside travelers, appearing suddenly out of the mist, vanishing just as suddenly. Mist is common here. The flat land and the water create perfect conditions for fog, thick fog that rolls in from the North Sea, that settles over the fens like a blanket, that reduces visibility to a few feet. In the fog, anything is possible. Anything can be hiding just out of sight, just beyond your limited field of vision. There is a story about a cyclist who saw Black Shuck on a fen road much like this one. It was evening, not quite dark but getting there. The light was failing. The cyclist was hurrying to get home before full darkness fell. He was pedaling hard, focused on the road ahead. And then he saw it. A large black dog standing in the middle of the road, blocking his path. The cyclist braked. He stopped just a few feet from the dog. He could see it clearly. Its size, its shape, its eyes. They glowed green, luminous green, like phosphorescence, like something from the deep ocean. The cyclist stared at the dog. The dog stared back. Neither moved. The cyclist's heart was pounding. His hands gripped the handlebars so tightly his knuckles turned white. He wanted to go around the dog, to continue on his way. But he was afraid to move, afraid of what might happen if he tried. They stood there, man and dog, for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds, and then the dog turned, slowly, deliberately. It walked to the side of the road, it descended the embankment, it stepped into the drainage ditch, into the water. And it kept walking. It did not swim, it did not paddle, it simply walked, across the surface of the water, as if the water were solid ground, and then it vanished. It faded into the growing darkness. The cyclist sat on his bicycle, trembling, trying to process what he had just seen. Eventually, he continued home. He told his wife what had happened. She did not believe him, but he knew what he had seen. He was certain of it. You walk on through the fens. The road continues, straight and flat, unchanging. The drainage ditches run parallel. The still water reflects the stars. The silence persists. You are alone here, completely alone. There are no houses, no farms, no signs of human habitation, just you and the road and the vast flatness. There is something hypnotic about this landscape, the repetition, the lack of variation. It lulls you. Your mind begins to wander. You think about nothing in particular. You just exist, moving forward, placing one foot in front of the other. The rhythm of walking takes over. It becomes automatic, meditative. A light appears in the distance, faint and flickering. You focus on it, a point of reference, something to walk toward. As you get closer, you see it as a lantern, hanging from a post beside the road. The light is weak, yellow and dim, but after so much darkness it seems bright. It illuminates a small circle of ground, a few feet of road, nothing more. You reach the lantern. There is a sign beneath it, wooden and weathered. The paint is faded. You can barely read the words. It points down a side road, a road even narrower than the one you are on. The sign says something about a village, a name you do not recognize. You continue straight. You do not turn. The main road feels safer somehow, more reliable. The lantern fades behind you. The darkness returns. The stars return. The silence returns. Everything returns to how it was, as if the lantern never existed, as if you imagined it. Trees surround you now, tall trees with thick trunks and spreading canopies. You have entered a forest, the Weald, the great forest that once covered much of southeastern England. Most of it has been cut down over the centuries, cleared for farms and towns and roads, but pockets remain. Ancient woodland, places where trees have grown for hundreds of years, places that feel untouched, unchanged, outside of time. The road here is narrow, barely wide enough for a single car. Tree roots push up through the pavement. They crack the asphalt. They create ridges and bumps. Nature reclaiming what was taken from it, slowly but inevitably. The canopy overhead blocks out the sky, blocks out the stars. You are enclosed now, surrounded. The darkness is different here, thicker, more tangible. The trees create their own darkness, a darkness that feels alive, that presses in on you from all sides. The air smells of earth and leaves, of decomposition and growth happening simultaneously. The forest floor is covered in leaf litter, layers and layers of fallen leaves. They rustle when the wind blows. A dry, whispering sound, like voices murmuring just below the threshold of hearing, like the trees are talking to each other, sharing secrets, passing messages through the darkness. There are oaks here, ancient oaks. Some of them are hundreds of years old. Their trunks are massive, so wide you could not wrap your arms around them even if you tried. The bark is deeply furrowed, rough and textured. It looks like the skin of some great beast, some creature from mythology. These trees were here before the roads, before the villages, before most of human history. They have witnessed countless lives, countless stories. They know things, things that have been forgotten, things that are no longer remembered. Beech trees grow here too, tall and smooth-barked. Their branches spread out horizontally, creating layers within the forest. The beech leaves are just beginning to turn. Even in the darkness you can sense their color changing, from green to gold to brown, the cycle continuing, the seasons turning. The road twists and curves. It follows the contours of the land, the natural pathways through the forest. There is no straight line here, no direct route. You wind between the trees, over small hills, through shallow valleys. The forest dictates your path. You follow where it leads. There are sounds in the forest, different sounds than the moor or the fens. The rustle of leaves, the crack of twigs, the scurrying of small animals, mice and voles and hedgehogs, foxes hunting in the undergrowth, badgers emerging from their sets, owls calling from the treetops, a long, wavering hoot that echoes through the darkness. Another owl answers. Their conversation carries through the night, ancient and instinctive. Padfoot is the name used in these forests, or sometimes Shaggy Coat, the black dog that walks among the trees, that pads along forest paths on silent paws, that appears and disappears like smoke, like shadow. Forest sightings are different from moorland sightings. In the forest, the dog seems to melt into its surroundings, to become part of the trees and the darkness. It is harder to see, harder to distinguish, harder to be certain of what you are looking at. A man once reported seeing Padfoot while walking through a forest much like this one. He was taking a shortcut home, a path he had walked many times before, a familiar route. But that night, something felt different. Wrong. The forest was too quiet. The usual sounds were absent. No owls, no rustling, no scurrying. Just silence. The man walked faster. He wanted to get out of the forest, to reach open ground. But as he walked, he became aware of something behind him. A presence. He could not hear it, could not see it when he looked back, but he knew it was there, following him, keeping pace. His walk became a jog. The jog became a run. He crashed through the undergrowth. Branches whipped his face. Roots tried to trip him. His heart pounded. His breath came in gasps. And still, he felt that presence behind him. Closer now, right behind him. He burst out of the forest, out into a meadow. Open ground. He stumbled to a stop, gasping for air. He turned to look back at the trees. And there, at the edge of the forest, he saw it. A large black dog, sitting, watching him. Its eyes glowed yellow in the darkness. The man stared. The dog stared back. And then, slowly, the dog stood. It turned. It walked back into the forest, into the trees. It disappeared into the shadows. The man stood in the meadow for a long time, trying to calm down, trying to understand what had just happened. He never took that shortcut again. You continue through the forest. The trees seem to go on forever, mile after mile of ancient woodland. You pass stands of birch. Their white bark glows faintly in the darkness, ghostly and ethereal. You pass holly bushes, their leaves sharp and glossy, their red berries bright even in the dim light. There are clearings in the forest, small open spaces where the trees have fallen or been cleared. In these clearings, grass grows. Wildflowers bloom. The sky is visible again. The stars shine down. These clearings feel like rooms, like chambers in a vast natural cathedral, places of respite, places of rest. You pass through them and back into the trees. The cycle continues. Darkness and light. Enclosure and openness. The forest breathing in and out. The road begins to climb. The forest is ascending a hillside. The trees thin slightly. There is more space between them. More light filtering down from above. You can see the shape of the land now. The rise and fall. The bumps and hollows. The forest has texture here. Dimension. It is not just a wall of trees. It is a living landscape. Complex and varied and beautiful. The forest falls away. The land opens up. You have reached the coast. Cornwall, the southwestern tip of England, where land meets sea, where two worlds collide. The road runs along the cliff top. On one side there is land, fields and hedgerows, stone walls and scattered farms. On the other side, there is nothing, just a sudden drop, a sheer cliff falling away to the sea below. You can hear the waves. They crash against the rocks at the base of the cliff. A constant roar, powerful and relentless, the sound of deep time, the sound of erosion. The sound of the ocean slowly eating away at the land, claiming it, pulling it down into the depths. The wind here is fierce. It blows in from the Atlantic, unobstructed. It has traveled thousands of miles across open ocean. It carries salt and spray. It tastes of the sea. It smells of seaweed and fish, of ancient depths and currents that circle the globe. The wind pushes against you, makes you lean into it, makes walking harder, more deliberate. The grass beside the road is short, cropped by sheep and wind. It grows in tufts, hardy and resilient. The soil here is thin, rocky. Not much can grow, but the grass persists. It clings to the cliff top, green and alive despite the harsh conditions. There are flowers, too. Sea thrift, small pink blooms on thin stems. They cluster together in cushions, low to the ground, protected from the wind. And there is gorse, spiky bushes covered in bright yellow flowers. They smell of coconut, sweet and unexpected in this wild place. The gorse is tough. It grows where nothing else can. It survives salt spray and gales and thin soil. It thrives. You can see the ocean now. It stretches out to the horizon, dark and vast. The surface is rough, choppy. White caps flash in the darkness. The waves roll in, one after another, endless. They have been rolling in like this for millions of years. They will continue rolling in long after you are gone, long after everyone is gone. The ocean is eternal, indifferent. It does not care about human concerns, human lives, human stories. It just exists, moving with the tides, responding to the moon, following laws older than thought. The moon is up now. You can see it hanging above the water, full and bright. It casts a silver path across the waves, a glittering road that seems to lead out to sea, to other lands, to other worlds. The moonlight illuminates the cliff top. Everything is visible now, clear and sharp. Shadows are deep and dark. Highlights are bright and silvery. The world is transformed, made strange and beautiful by the lunar light. Cornwall has its own name for the black dog, the Dando dog, or sometimes just the demon dog. The legends here are old, very old. They go back to before Christianity, to Celtic times, to beliefs and stories that have been passed down through countless generations. The Cornish black dog is associated with the wild hunt, a spectral hunt that rides through the sky on stormy nights, led by the devil or ancient gods. The black dogs run with the hunt. They chase souls. They herald death. They are fierce and terrible and unstoppable, but there are gentler stories too, stories of black dogs that guide lost travelers, that lead people away from the cliff edge on foggy nights, that prevent accidents, that save lives. Cornwall holds both versions, the threatening and the protective, the dark, and the light. There is a story about a fisherman who saw the black dog on a night much like this. He was walking home from the harbor. His day's catch had been good. He was tired but content. He walked along the cliff-top path. The moon was bright. The wind was strong. And then he saw the dog, standing in the middle of the path, large and black and solid. The fisherman stopped. He knew the stories. Everyone in Cornwall knows the stories. He felt a moment of fear, but the dog did not seem threatening. It just stood there, looking at him. Its eyes glowed, but not menacingly, more like lanterns, like lights showing the way. The fisherman waited to see what the dog would do. After a moment, the dog turned. It walked off the path, into the grass, toward the cliff edge. The fisherman watched, curious. The dog stopped a few feet from the edge. It looked back at the fisherman, and then it looked down, toward the cliff. The fisherman walked over. Carefully, he approached the edge. He looked down, and there, on a narrow ledge about 10 feet below, was a sheep. It had wandered off and gotten stuck. It could not get back up. It could not get down. It was trapped, bleating pitifully. Without the dog, the fisherman would have walked right past, would never have known the sheep was there. The fisherman went back to the village. He got help. They rescued the sheep. They brought it back up to safety. When the fisherman looked for the dog, it was gone. It had vanished as silently as it had appeared. The fisherman never saw it again. But he always remembered. He told the story many times, and he always insisted that the dog saved that sheep, that it showed him where to look, that it helped. You continue along the cliff top. The path is well worn. Many feet have walked here, for many centuries. This is an ancient route, a coastal path that has been used since people first came to this land. They walked here to travel between settlements, to trade, to fish, to watch for invaders coming from the sea. The path is part of the history of this place, part of its story. Ahead, you can see a lighthouse, tall and white. It stands on a headland. The light sweeps across the water, around and around. A steady rhythm, 3 seconds of light, 3 seconds of darkness, 3 seconds of light. The pattern never changes. The lighthouse has stood here for over 100 years, warning ships away from the rocks, saving lives, a beacon in the darkness, a fixed point in an ever-changing sea. You walk toward the lighthouse. The path descends slightly, down toward the headland. The grass gives way to rock, bare granite worn smooth by wind and rain. You can see the strata in the stone, lines and layers showing how the rock was formed. Millions of years ago, when this land was somewhere else entirely, when it was part of a different continent. Geology written in stone. History you can touch. The lighthouse keeper lives in a small cottage beside the lighthouse. There is smoke rising from the chimney. A light in the window. Someone is home, awake. Keeping watch. The lighthouse must always be maintained. The light must always burn. Ships depend on it. Lives depend on it. The keeper takes this responsibility seriously, as the keepers have done for generations. You pass the lighthouse, the light sweeps over you, bright and brief. Then darkness returns. Then light again. The rhythm is comforting, steady, reliable. In an uncertain world, the lighthouse is certain. It is there. It does its job. It continues. The path curves away from the lighthouse. It follows the coastline, in and out, around bays and coves, past small beaches covered in stones and shells, past rock formations shaped by the sea, arches and stacks and caves. The ocean has been sculpting this coastline for millennia, creating art, destroying and building, never stopping, never resting. There are tide pools here. Shallow depressions in the rock filled with seawater, left behind when the tide went out. You can see them glistening in the moonlight. Each pool is a miniature ecosystem, a world unto itself. There are anemones, barnacles, tiny fish, crabs, sea stars, all living in these small pockets of water, waiting for the tide to return, surviving in the in-between space, neither fully land nor fully sea. The smell of the ocean is strong here, salt and seaweed, the sharp tang of iodine, the richness of marine life. It is a clean smell, a wild smell, the smell of a place that belongs to nature, that has not been tamed or civilized, a place that resists human control. You climb back up toward higher ground, away from the water. The path is steep here. Your legs burn with the effort. Your breath comes harder, but you continue, up and up. Until you reach the top of the cliff again, you pause to catch your breath. You turn to look back at the sea. It spreads out before you, enormous and dark and beautiful. The waves continue their eternal rhythm, crashing and retreating, crashing and retreating. The sound fills your ears, fills your mind. It is all you can hear, all you can think about, the ocean, the waves, the deep and ancient power of water. The landscape has changed once more. You are inland again, away from the sea. The land here is gentle, rolling. These are the South Downs, chalk hills covered in grass. They rise and fall in smooth curves, like waves frozen in stone, like the ocean made solid. The grass here is different from the clifftop grass, softer, longer. It waves in the breeze like a field of grain, but it is not grain. It is just grass, wild grass. The kind that has grown here for thousands of years, the kind that sheep graze on, that rabbits nibble, that creates the characteristic short turf of the downs. The soil is thin here. Beneath it there is chalk, white chalk, soft rock formed from the skeletons of countless tiny sea creatures. Millions of years ago, this land was underwater. The chalk is proof, evidence of a time when England was a tropical sea, when dinosaurs swam overhead, when the world was completely different. The downs are open. There are few trees, just grass and sky. The views are long. You can see for miles in every direction. The land rolls away from you, hill after hill, disappearing into the distance, into the darkness. The openness is liberating. After the enclosure of the forest, after the edge of the cliff, the downs feel spacious, free. You can breathe here. You can move without obstruction. The road follows the crest of a hill. It runs along the ridgeway, an ancient track, one of the oldest roads in England. People have been walking this route for 5,000 years, longer, since the Stone Age, since before metal, since before agriculture. Hunter-gatherers walked here, following herds, moving with the seasons. Later, traders used this route, carrying goods from one settlement to another, tin and copper and gold, pottery and tools and food. The ridgeway was a highway, a connection, a lifeline. You can feel the age of this place. It is in the air, in the ground beneath your feet. This land has stories, more stories than you could ever know, more stories than have ever been recorded. Most of them are lost, forgotten, erased by time, but some remain. Passed down through oral tradition, through legend, through the persistent memory of place, the black dog appears on the downs too. Of course it does. It appears everywhere in England. Every landscape has its version. On the downs, the dog is seen walking the ridgeway, walking the same ancient paths that humans have walked for millennia. Some say the dog is the spirit of the land itself, the consciousness of this place made manifest, a guardian watching over the hills, protecting them, ensuring they are not forgotten. There's a story about a group of hikers who saw the black dog on the downs. They were walking the South Downs Way, a long-distance footpath that follows the ridgeway for many miles. It was late afternoon. The sun was setting. They were looking for a place to camp for the night. As they walked, they saw a dog ahead of them. large and black, walking in the same direction, also following the path. They thought nothing of it at first, just someone else's dog. Perhaps it had gotten separated from its owner. They called to it, whistled, tried to get its attention, but the dog did not respond. It just kept walking, same pace, same direction, never looking back. The hikers continued. They walked for perhaps half an hour. The dog stayed ahead of them, always the same distance away, never getting closer, never getting farther, just maintaining that constant gap. The hikers began to feel uneasy. There was something wrong, something off. The dog's gait was too smooth, too steady. It did not move like a normal dog. It did not stop to sniff things, did not wander off the path, just walked, relentlessly forward. The sun set. Darkness fell. The hikers took out their torches. They shone the lights ahead. And there was the dog, still walking, still maintaining that same distance. But now its eyes reflected the light. They glowed, bright and green, like glass, like mirrors. Unnatural. The hikers stopped. They discussed what to do. Some wanted to continue, to catch up with the dog, to see what it was. Others wanted to turn back, to go a different way. They argued, they debated. And while they were distracted, the dog vanished. One moment it was there. The next, it was gone. They scanned the path with their torches. Nothing. No dog. No sign it had ever been there. They made camp. They built a fire. They huddled together, nervous, watching the darkness. But nothing happened. The night passed quietly. In the morning, they continued their hike. They looked for paw prints in the soft earth. They looked for any evidence of the dog, but there was nothing. No trace, no proof, just the memory, just the shared experience. They all saw it. They all agreed on what they had seen, but they could not explain it. They could not make sense of it. You walk on. The downs roll endlessly. The grass whispers. The breeze is constant here, always blowing, always moving. It comes from the south, from the sea. It carries the smell of salt. Even though the ocean is miles away, you can still smell it, still taste it in the air. The sea is never far away in southern England. It surrounds the land, shapes it, influences it, makes itself known. There are barrows on the downs, ancient burial mounds, raised humps in the earth where people were laid to rest thousands of years ago. Bronze Age chieftains, important people, leaders, buried with their possessions, their weapons and jewelry, their most precious things. The barrows are covered in grass now. They look like natural hills, but they are not. They are human-made, monuments to the dead, memorials that have lasted for millennia. You pass one of these barrows. It rises from the downs like a whale breaching, round and smooth. The grass on top is the same as the grass around it, but the shape gives it away, the deliberate construction. Someone chose this spot, decided this was the place, and others agreed. They dug the earth. They built the mound. They performed the rituals. They said the words. And then they left. And the barrow remained, silent witness to centuries, to empires rising and falling, to languages being born and dying, to the endless passage of time. You wonder what the Bronze Age people would think if they could see this place now. Would they recognize it? Would it feel familiar? Or has too much changed? The roads are different. The villages are different. But the land is the same. The chalk is still here. The grass still grows. The wind still blows. The essence remains. The spirit persists. A fox appears on the path ahead, small and red. It pauses, looks at you. Its eyes catch the moonlight. They glow amber. The fox is not afraid. It is used to humans. It lives alongside them, in the margins, in the spaces between. It watches you for a moment, assessing, deciding. Then it turns and trots off the path, into the grass. It disappears. absorbed by the landscape, gone as quickly as it appeared. The fox is not a black dog, but in that moment, in the way it looked at you, in the glow of its eyes, you are reminded of the stories, reminded of what you are looking for, reminded that the black dog could appear at any moment, on any road, in any landscape. It is unpredictable, capricious. It follows its own rules, its own logic, or perhaps it follows no logic at all. Perhaps it simply exists, present when it chooses to be, absent when it does not. The path descends, down from the ridgeway, down toward a valley. The grass gives way to scrub, hawthorn and bramble, wild rose and elder. The valley is sheltered, protected from the wind. The air is warmer here, softer. You can hear running water, a stream. It gurgles and splashes, a cheerful sound, life-giving sound. You reach the stream. It is small, perhaps 3 feet wide. The water is clear. You can see the stones on the bottom, smooth and round, colored by minerals, grays and browns and occasional flashes of white. The water flows quickly, down from the hills, toward the sea, always moving, always finding its way. There is a footbridge across the stream, simple wooden planks, weathered gray. The wood is worn smooth by feet and weather. You cross the bridge. Your footsteps sound hollow on the wood. The sound echoes briefly, then is absorbed by the valley, by the trees and grass and earth. On the other side of the stream, the path climbs again, back up toward the downs, back toward the open sky. The cycle continues, up and down, hill and valley, open and enclosed. The land breathes, expands and contracts. You move with it, following its rhythms, becoming part of its pattern. Mountains surround you now, not high mountains, not Alps or Himalayas, but mountains nonetheless. The Lake District, the highest ground in England, peaks and ridges and steep valleys carved by ancient glaciers. This is dramatic landscape, powerful landscape, landscape that demands respect. The road here is narrow and winding. It follows the shore of a lake. The water is dark and still, like polished obsidian, like a mirror laid flat. The mountains are reflected perfectly in the surface, upside-down mountains, shadow mountains. They look as solid as the real mountains, as permanent. But they are just reflections, illusions. If the wind blows, if the water ripples, they will dissolve, break apart into fragments, disappear. But tonight there is no wind. The air is perfectly still. The lake is perfectly smooth. The reflections are perfect. It is hard to tell where the real world ends and the reflection begins. Hard to distinguish solid earth from liquid illusion. The boundary is blurred. Reality doubles, folds back on itself. The mountains are dark shapes against the sky. Their peaks are sharp, defined. They block out the stars, create gaps in the celestial pattern. You can see the outlines clearly, the ridges and slopes, the rocky summits. These mountains are old, ancient. They were here before humans, before mammals, before dinosaurs. They are the roots of even older mountains, mountains that once stood as tall as the Himalayas, but time has worn them down. Erosion has softened them, reduced them. What remains is the core, the heart, the foundation. The rock here is volcanic, formed from lava and ash, from eruptions that happened hundreds of millions of years ago, when this land was far south of where it is now, when it was part of a different tectonic plate, when the climate was different. Everything was different. The rock remembers. It carries the history, the memory of fire and violence and catastrophic change. You can smell the lake, clean water and stone, mineral scents, the faint hint of vegetation, algae and pondweed. The lake is deep, very deep. In some places, hundreds of feet. The deepest lake in England. The water is cold. Even in summer it never truly warms. The depth holds the cold, preserves it. The cold rises from the bottom, cools the surface, keeps everything at a constant temperature. There are fish in the lake, trout and pike and perch. They swim in the dark water, invisible. They rise to feed at dawn and dusk, breaking the surface, creating rings that spread outward, disturbing the perfect reflection. But at night, they stay deep, near the bottom, waiting for light. The road curves around a headland, a rocky promontory jutting into the lake. You leave the shore. The path climbs, steeply. Your legs protest. Your breathing becomes labored. But you push on, up and up. The climb is worth it. You know this somehow. You know that something waits at the top, something worth seeing. You reach a viewpoint, a flat area of rock. Someone has built a small cairn here, stones stacked carefully. A marker, a sign that others have been here, have stood where you are standing, have looked out at this view. You add a stone to the cairn, continuing the tradition, leaving your mark, your proof that you were here, that you existed in this place at this moment. The view is extraordinary. You can see the entire lake spread out below, dark and long and narrow, surrounded by mountains on all sides, enclosed, protected, a secret place, a hidden place. Beyond the lake, more mountains rise, layer upon layer, fading into the distance, each layer lighter than the last, until the farthest mountains are barely distinguishable from the sky, pale gray on deep gray, almost invisible. The sky here feels closer than it does in other places. The mountains bring you nearer to it, make you feel taller, more elevated, less bound to the earth. You could reach up and touch the stars, or so it seems. They shine bright and clear, undimmed by any artificial light. There are no cities here, no towns, just scattered villages, small collections of houses, brief concentrations of humanity in a vast wilderness of stone and water. The black dog is seen here too, in these mountains, on these lake shores. The local name is just black dog, simple and direct. No fancy terms, no elaborate names, just what it is, a black dog, large and strange and mysterious. It appears on mountain paths, beside lakes, near waterfalls, in places of natural power, places where the land feels alive, where it has presence, where it demands attention. There is a story about a shepherd who saw the black dog in these mountains. He was searching for lost sheep. They had wandered off during a storm. He needed to find them before nightfall, before the temperature dropped, before the cold became dangerous. He was walking along a ridge, a narrow path with steep drops on either side, difficult terrain, treacherous even in good conditions. As he walked, he saw the dog, sitting beside the path, just sitting, not moving. The shepherd stopped. He knew the legends. Everyone in the Lake District knows the legends. He considered turning back, going a different way, but he needed to find his sheep, and this was the fastest route, the most direct path. He continued forward, slowly, carefully, watching the dog, ready to react if it moved, if it threatened him. But the dog did nothing. It just sat, watching him approach. Its eyes glowed softly, red like embers, like coals. The shepherd drew level with the dog. He was close enough to touch it, close enough to see every detail, the texture of its fur, the shape of its head, the size of its paws. It was enormous, larger than any dog he had ever seen, larger than seemed possible. He passed the dog, continued down the path. His heart was pounding, his hands were shaking, but he forced himself to keep walking, to not look back, to not show fear. He walked for perhaps 5 minutes, and then he heard something behind him. A rumble, a crack. He turned just in time to see the path collapse, the place where he had been standing, the place where the dog had been sitting. It slid away. tons of rock and earth tumbling down the mountainside, creating an avalanche, a cascade of stone. If the shepherd had been walking faster, if he had not stopped to look at the dog, if he had been on that section of path when it collapsed, he would have fallen, would have been carried down, would have died. The dog had delayed him, kept him safe, saved his life. When the dust settled, the shepherd looked for the dog, but it was gone, vanished. He never saw it again, but he never forgot. He told the story to anyone who would listen, and he always insisted that the dog knew, that it appeared deliberately, that it sat in that spot for a reason, to make him pause, to keep him away from the collapsing path, to protect him. You leave the viewpoint. You descend carefully. The path is steep. Loose stones threaten to roll under your feet. You use your hands for balance, gripping rocks, steadying yourself. The descent takes concentration, focus. There is no room for distraction. One wrong step could be serious, could result in injury, in falling. You respect the mountain. You give it your full attention. At the bottom, you rejoin the lakeside path. The water is still calm, still reflecting the mountains, still perfect. You continue around the shore. The path is level here. Easy walking after the climb and descent. Your legs are tired, your feet ache. But the easy path is welcome. You settle into a comfortable pace, neither fast nor slow. Just steady, sustainable. You pass a small beach, pebbles and stones worn smooth by water. They are gray and white and occasionally pink. The pink stones are granite, washed down from the mountains, carried by streams, deposited here over centuries. You pick up a stone. It is cool and smooth. It fits perfectly in your palm. You skip it across the water. It bounces once, twice, 3 times, 4, then it sinks. The ripples spread outward, disturbing the reflection. The mountains waver and reform. The water settles. The mirror returns. The night is deep now, the darkest part, the hours before dawn. This is when the world feels most mysterious, most unknown, when anything seems possible, when the barrier between reality and dream is thinnest. You are tired. Your mind is drifting. You're not quite awake and not quite asleep. You are in the in-between state, the liminal state, the state where visions occur, where the impossible becomes possible. Is that a shape moving on the mountainside? A dark form against darker stone? You stop. You stare. You try to focus. But your eyes are tired. They play tricks. The shape could be a boulder, or a shadow, or an animal, or nothing. Just your imagination. Just your mind creating patterns where none exist. You blink. The shape is gone, or it was never there. You cannot be sure. You continue walking. The lake stretches on, long and dark and mysterious. The mountains loom, silent and ancient. The night persists, patient and endless. And somewhere, perhaps, the black dog walks, or waits, or watches, doing what black dogs do, being what black dogs are, mystery incarnate, legend made flesh, or not flesh, or something between. Something other, something that defies easy categorization, something that remains, despite all attempts to explain it away, despite all rational arguments, despite all skepticism. It remains, walking the lonely roads, appearing to travelers, adding to its legend, adding to its story. One encounter at a time, one sighting at a time, one moment at a time. Forever. The landscape has transformed again. You are in gentler country now, the Cotswolds, rolling hills covered in patchwork fields, stone walls dividing the land into neat rectangles, each field a different shade. Some are golden with wheat, some are green with grass, some are brown where they have been plowed and left fallow. The patterns are pleasing, orderly, human scale. This is cultivated land, tamed land, land that has been worked for centuries. The stone here is limestone. Honey-colored, it glows golden in sunlight. Even at night, even in darkness, it seems to hold warmth, to radiate light. The stone is soft, easily carved, perfect for building, and so everything here is made of it. The walls, the houses, the churches, the barns, everything shares that same warm color, that same gentle glow. You are walking through a village, a small village, perhaps 50 houses. No more. They cluster around a village green, a patch of grass with a pond. Ducks sleep on the water, their heads tucked under their wings. The houses are old. Some date back hundreds of years. Their roofs are made of stone tiles, thick, heavy slabs that have weathered countless storms. Moss grows in the cracks, green and soft. The walls are thick, built to last, built to endure. The streets are narrow, barely wide enough for a car. They were designed for foot traffic, for horses and carts, for a slower time. The pavement is uneven, cobblestones in some places, flagstones in others. Your footsteps echo off the stone walls. A hollow sound, a lonely sound, but not unpleasant, just quiet, peaceful. Every house has a garden, small plots behind stone walls. You can smell the flowers, roses and lavender, honeysuckle and jasmine. The scents hang in the still air, sweet and intoxicating. Gardens are important here. They always have been. They provide food, beauty, connection to the earth, connection to the seasons, connection to life. There is a church at the center of the village, as there always is. The church is the heart, the anchor. It has stood here for 800 years, maybe longer. The tower is square and solid, built to last forever. The windows are narrow slits, arrow loops from when churches were also fortresses, when they provided protection as well as salvation. The door is wooden, thick oak planks bound with iron. It is unlocked. Churches are always unlocked, or they used to be, before theft became common, before trust eroded. You push open the door, it swings on old hinges, they creak, a long, slow sound. The church is dark inside, cool. The air smells of stone and candle wax, of old books and ancient wood, of centuries of prayers, centuries of hopes and fears, centuries of births and deaths and marriages. All the important moments, all the transitions, all marked here, witnessed here, made sacred here. There are pews inside, dark wood worn smooth by countless bodies, countless hands. You can see the wear patterns, where generations sat, where they knelt, where they gripped the wood during difficult sermons, during moments of grief, during moments of joy. The wood remembers. It holds the impressions, the ghosts of all those people, all those lives. The altar is simple. A stone table covered with a white cloth. Candles stand on either side, unlit at this hour. But their presence is enough. They mark the sacred space, the place where earth meets heaven, where the mundane becomes holy, where transformation occurs. You sit in a pew. Near the back, you rest. The silence is profound. Churches have a special quality of silence. It is not just absence of sound. It is presence of quiet, active silence, silence that listens, that holds space, that welcomes. You close your eyes, you breathe, you exist in this moment, this place, this bubble of stillness in a moving world. The black dog appears in the Cotswolds too. Of course it does. Every part of England has its stories. Here the dog is seen on village lanes, on the paths between fields, near old churches and ancient crossroads. It is called different names, Blackshuck sometimes, or just the old dog, the black hound, the shadow dog. The names vary, but the essence is the same. There is a story about a vicar who saw the black dog in a Cotswold village much like this one. It was late evening. He had been visiting a sick parishioner, a farmer who lived on the edge of the village. The visit had taken longer than expected. The farmer was dying. The vicar had stayed to comfort him, to pray with him, to help him make peace with what was coming. When the vicar finally left, it was full dark. The moon had not yet risen. The village lanes were black. He carried a lantern. Its light was weak. It illuminated only a small circle around him, a few feet of cobblestones, nothing more. The rest was darkness. He walked through the village. His footsteps echoed. The lantern swung. Shadows moved on the stone walls, long distorted shapes that seemed to crawl and writhe. He was not afraid. He had walked these lanes countless times. He knew every turn, every step. This was his village, his home. He was safe here. But then he saw the dog. It was standing in the lane ahead, just at the edge of his lantern light, large and black and motionless. The vicar stopped. He raised his lantern higher. The light fell on the dog's face. Its eyes glowed, not red or green or yellow, but white, pure white, like moonlight, like starlight, luminous and strange. The vicar felt no fear. He was a man of God. He had faced many things, death and grief and suffering. A dog did not frighten him, even a strange dog, even one with glowing eyes. He spoke to it, gently, calmly. He asked if it was lost, if it needed help. The dog did not respond. It just stood there, watching. The vicar stepped forward. He intended to walk past the dog, to continue home. But as he moved, the dog moved too. It turned. It walked ahead of him. Slowly, deliberately, matching his pace. The vicar followed. He did not know why. It seemed the natural thing to do, the right thing, as if he had no choice, as if this was meant to be. The dog led him through the village, down lanes he had not intended to walk, past houses dark and silent, past the church, past the green. The vicar followed, confused but not alarmed, curious, wondering where the dog was taking him, what it wanted, why it had appeared. They reached the edge of the village. The lane became a path. The path led into fields, open country. The vicar hesitated. He should turn back, go home. His wife would be worried, but the dog continued, and so did he. Following, drawn forward by something he could not name, they walked for perhaps 10 minutes, through fields and past hedgerows, and then the dog stopped. It sat. The vicar stopped too. He looked around, trying to understand, trying to see what the dog saw. And then he heard it. A voice, weak and hoarse, calling for help. He left the path. He pushed through a hedgerow. On the other side, in a ditch, he found a man, an elderly man from the village. He had been walking home from the pub. He had stumbled, fallen, twisted his ankle. He could not get up, could not walk. He had been calling for help for hours. But no one had heard. The village was too far, his voice too weak. The vicar helped him up, supported him, walked him slowly back to the village, back to the man's house, back to safety. When they reached the lane, the vicar looked for the dog, but it was gone, vanished, as if it had never been. The vicar got the man home, made sure he was comfortable. Then he went to his own house, his own bed. He told his wife what had happened. She listened. She did not question. She had lived in the village her whole life. She knew the stories. She believed. You leave the church. You step back into the night. The village is still silent, still sleeping. You walk through the lanes, past the stone houses, past the gardens. The scent of flowers follows you, sweet and heavy. You breathe it in. You let it fill you. These are the smells of English summer. Of country life, of generations growing the same flowers in the same soil. You pass an old stone cross. It stands at a junction where 3 lanes meet. The cross is worn. The carvings are faded. You can barely make out the figures. Saints and angels. Symbols of faith. It has stood here for 1,000 years. marking this spot, making it sacred, protecting travelers, blessing the roads. People used to pray here, used to stop and cross themselves, used to ask for safe passage. The practice has faded, but the cross remains, still watching, still marking, still holding its place. The lane climbs. Out of the village, up a gentle slope. The stone walls continue. They march up the hillside in straight lines, dividing fields, creating boundaries. These walls are old. Some are hundreds of years old, built by hand, stone by stone. Each wall represents countless hours of labor, countless stones lifted and placed, countless decisions about which stone goes where. It is slow work, meditative work, the kind of work that connects you to the land, makes you part of it. You reach the top of the hill. The view opens up. You can see for miles, rolling hills in every direction, patchwork fields, stone villages tucked into valleys, church towers rising, dark shapes against the slightly lighter sky. This is classic English countryside, the kind that appears on postcards, in paintings, in imaginations around the world. It is beautiful, timeless, perfect in its imperfection, but it is not natural. Not really. This landscape is entirely human-made. Every hedge, every wall, every field, all placed deliberately, all maintained constantly. If humans left, if the work stopped, it would all return to forest within a century. The walls would crumble, the hedges would grow wild, the fields would disappear under trees and bracken, the land would reclaim itself. Go back to what it was before. Before agriculture, before civilization, before humans decided to reshape it in their image, but for now, it endures. This careful balance, this partnership between human and land, both shaping each other, both dependent on each other. The land provides, humans maintain, the cycle continues. You descend the other side of the hill, down toward another valley, another village, another cluster of honeystone houses. The pattern repeats, has repeated for centuries, will repeat for centuries more, unless something changes, unless the balance breaks. But for now, it holds, stable, enduring, reliable as the seasons. The land has hardened again. You are in high country, the Peak District, not the highest peaks in England. The Lake District holds that distinction, but high enough, wild enough, dramatic enough. This is the southern end of the Pennines, the backbone of England, the range of hills and moorland that runs up the center of the country, dividing east from west, dividing industrial from rural, dividing coal from stone. The rock here is different from the Cotswolds, darker, harder, millstone grit, coarse sandstone that resists weathering. That stands in jagged outcrops and tors. That creates dramatic scenery, cliffs and edges and steep valleys. This is landscape for climbers, for hikers, for people who seek challenge, seek difficulty, seek places that test them. You are walking along a ridge. The path is narrow, rocky. It follows the top of an escarpment. On one side, the land slopes gently down to fields and farms. On the other side, it drops steeply, almost vertically, a cliff of millstone grit, dark and imposing. At the base of the cliff, there is a valley, a deep valley filled with trees, oak and ash and birch. Their tops are far below you. You are above the tree line here, in a different zone, an alpine zone where only the hardiest plants survive. The wind is strong. It pushes against you, constant and forceful. You lean into it. You become aware of your weight, your balance. One wrong step, and you could fall, could tumble down the cliff, could disappear into the trees below. The thought is not frightening exactly, just sobering, a reminder, a reality check. This is serious landscape. It demands respect, attention, awareness. The vegetation here is sparse, short grass, heather, bilberry, low-growing plants that hug the ground, that avoid the wind. The soil is thin, acidic. Not much can grow, but what does grow is tough. Resilient, it has adapted, found ways to survive, to thrive even in harsh conditions. There are rock formations along the ridge, tors, stacks of boulders balanced impossibly, carved by wind and rain and frost, weathered into strange shapes. Some look like animals, some look like faces, some look like buildings, castles and towers and walls. The human mind sees patterns, finds meaning, creates stories. These rocks have names: the anvil, the winking man, the dancing bear, names given by generations of walkers, generations who saw the same shapes, shared the same visions. You stop at one of the tors, you climb onto a flat boulder, you sit. The stone is cold, hard, but solid, reassuring. You are sitting on rock that is 300 million years old, rock that formed in ancient river deltas, when this land was near the equator, when it was part of a vast river system, when everything was different. The view from here is extraordinary. You can see the whole of the Peak District spread out below, dark moorland and green valleys, stone villages and winding roads, reservoirs like mirrors reflecting the sky. This is a lived-in landscape, a working landscape, but also a wild landscape. The two exist side by side, human and nature, civilization and wilderness, neither entirely dominant, neither entirely submissive, a balance, a negotiation, a compromise. The black dog is seen often in the Peak District, perhaps more often than anywhere else in England. The moorland suits it. The wild places, the lonely paths, this is its territory, its domain. Here it is not out of place, not an intruder. It belongs. It fits. It is as much a part of the landscape as the heather and the rocks. There is a famous story about a group of hikers who encountered the black dog on a Peak District moor. They were walking the Pennine Way, a long-distance trail that runs the length of the Pennines, from south to north, 268 miles. They had been walking for 5 days. They were tired but happy, enjoying the journey, the challenge, the sense of accomplishment. It was late afternoon. They were crossing a high moor, open and exposed, no shelter, no landmarks, just miles of heather and bog. The path was faint, a line of worn earth. They followed it carefully, navigating by compass and map. The weather was changing. Clouds building, wind increasing. They needed to find shelter, to get off the moor before the storm hit. As they walked, one of them saw the dog. It was behind them, following, keeping pace. The hiker pointed it out to the others. They all stopped. They all looked. There was no mistaking it. A large black dog, following their path, staying perhaps 50 yards back. Not approaching, not retreating, just following. They discussed what to do. Some wanted to go back, to confront the dog, to see if it needed help. Others wanted to continue, to ignore it, to focus on getting off the moor. In the end, they decided to continue, to keep walking, to keep an eye on the dog but not engage with it. They turned and continued on their way. The dog followed, for over an hour, always maintaining the same distance, never getting closer. Never falling behind. The hikers became used to it. They stopped checking over their shoulders, stopped worrying. The dog was just there, a presence, a companion of sorts, strange but not threatening. The storm hit. Rain came suddenly, heavy and cold. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The hikers pulled on their rain gear. They huddled together. They checked their map. They were close to a shelter, a stone hut maintained for hikers. Just half a mile ahead, they pushed on, heads down, fighting the wind and rain. They reached the hut, small and squat, stone walls 3 feet thick, a slate roof, a single room with a dirt floor and a fireplace. but it was shelter. It was safety. They stumbled inside, grateful, relieved. They took off their wet gear. They assessed their situation. They were fine. Tired and wet, but fine. They had made it. One of them remembered the dog. They looked out the door, back the way they had come. The moor was empty. Rain swept across in sheets. The heather bent in the wind. But there was no dog. No sign of it. No paw prints in the mud around the hut. Nothing. It was as if it had never been there. As if they had imagined it. But they all saw it. All agreed on what they had seen. A large, black dog, following them across the moor, leading them to shelter, disappearing when they were safe. They stayed in the hut that night. The storm raged, rain drummed on the roof, wind howled around the walls, but they were dry. They were warm. They had food and water. They were safe. In the morning, the storm had passed. The sky was clear, the sun was shining. They continued their journey, but they never forgot that day. That dog. That strange encounter on the high moor. You leave the tor. You continue along the ridge. The path is clearer here, more defined. Many feet have walked this way. The Peak District is popular. Hikers come from all over, from the nearby cities, Manchester and Sheffield. They come to escape, to breathe clean air, to walk in wild places, to remember what it feels like to be away from concrete and cars, to be in landscape that has not been tamed, not been sanitized, that still has rough edges, still has danger, still demands respect. The ridge begins to descend, down toward a valley. You can see a village below, a cluster of gray stone houses, a church tower, smoke rising from chimneys. People live here, in this harsh, beautiful place. They always have, for centuries, making lives, raising families, working the land. It is not easy. The winters are hard. The isolation is real. But they stay, because this is home, because the beauty compensates, because there is something about this place that gets into your blood, that becomes part of you, that you cannot leave behind. You descend carefully. The path is steep, rocky. Your knees complain. Your feet slip on loose stones. But you go slowly, deliberately, watching each step. There is no rush, no deadline. You are walking to walk, moving to move, being in the landscape, being part of it. That is enough. Everything is water now. Water and sky. The Norfolk Broads. A network of rivers and lakes in eastern England, near the coast, near the sea. This is a landscape defined by water, shaped by it, dominated by it. The land is low, barely above sea level, in some places below sea level, protected by dikes and drainage systems. Always under threat of flooding, always aware that water wants to reclaim this place, wants to return it to marsh and fen and shallow sea. You are walking along a riverbank. The river is slow, sluggish. Brown water, thick with silt. It barely flows, just eases along, pulled gently by gravity, by the distant call of the sea. Reeds grow along the banks, tall and dense. They rustle in the breeze, a dry whispering sound. They are the dominant vegetation here, reeds and rushes and sedges, plants that grow in shallow water, that thrive in wet places, that create habitat for birds and fish and insects. The path is narrow, barely a path at all, more like a desire line, a route worn by feet, by people walking the same way. Day after day, year after year, the ground is soft, muddy. Your boots sink slightly with each step. Water seeps up around the edges. The earth here is saturated, full of water, heavy and yielding. There are boats on the river, small boats, wooden dinghies, and rowing boats. They are tied to wooden posts driven into the bank. They rock gently in the current. Paint peels from their sides, green and blue and red, faded by sun and water. Some boats look abandoned, left to rot. slowly returning to the elements. Wood softening, metal rusting, nature reclaiming. The sky here is enormous, even bigger than the fens, even more dominant. The land is so flat, so featureless. The sky takes over. It becomes the landscape, more important than the ground. It fills your vision, fills your awareness. You are more aware of clouds than trees, more aware of light than solid earth. The clouds move slowly, great masses of white and gray. They drift across the sky like continents, casting shadows on the water, on the reeds, changing the light, altering the mood. The Broads are a place of changing light, of subtle shifts. The landscape looks different every hour, every minute, depending on the clouds, depending on the sun, depending on the season. Birds are everywhere. This is their kingdom, their territory. Herons stand in the shallows, tall and still, waiting for fish, waiting with infinite patience. Ducks paddle in groups. Mallards and teals and widgeons, they dabble for food, tipping upside down, tails pointing skyward. Coots and moorhens skulk among the reeds. Black bodies, white beaks, always busy, always moving. You can hear the birds, their calls and cries, the honking of geese, the quacking of ducks, the harsh cry of a heron taking flight, wings beating slowly. Long legs trailing behind, the sound of wings on water, splashing, flapping, rising into the air. The Broads are alive with bird sound. It never stops. From dawn to dusk, life happening everywhere, feeding and breeding and surviving. The black dog appears here too, on these riverbanks, in these watery places. Black shuck, that is the name used here, the most famous name. The name that has spread beyond Norfolk, beyond England, that has entered popular culture, entered the collective imagination. Black shuck of the Norfolk Broads, large and black with fiery eyes, walking the river paths, appearing to travelers. An omen, a guardian, a mystery. There is an old story, one of the oldest, about a man who rowed his boat across a broad late one evening. The sun was setting. The water was calm. The air was still. Perfect conditions. He rowed easily. The boat glided across the water. He was relaxed, content, enjoying the peace. As he rowed, he became aware of something on the bank, a dark shape, moving parallel to his boat, keeping pace. He stopped rowing. He looked. It was a dog, a large black dog, walking along the bank, watching the boat, watching him. Its eyes glowed red in the fading light, like coals, like fire. The man felt fear, deep, visceral fear. He wanted to row faster, to get away, but he was frozen, unable to move. The dog continued walking. The boat continued drifting, carried by momentum, by the gentle current. Man and dog, moving together, neither breaking the connection. The dog reached a point where the bank curved away, where the path left the water. It stopped. It turned to face the boat. The man stared at it. It stared back. And then it spoke. Not in words, not in sounds, but the man heard it nonetheless. Inside his head, inside his mind, a voice, deep and old and certain. It said one word, one simple word. Soon. The man blinked. The dog was gone, vanished. The bank was empty, just reeds and mud, nothing more. The man sat in his boat, heart pounding, hands shaking. He did not understand, did not know what soon meant. Soon what? Soon when? The message was unclear, ambiguous, frightening in its vagueness. He rowed home. He tied up his boat. He went inside. He told his wife what had happened. She listened. She was concerned, but she did not know what to make of it. They went to bed. They tried to sleep, but the man could not. He lay awake, thinking about the dog, about the message, about what it might mean. 3 days later, his father died. Suddenly, unexpectedly. The old man had been healthy, active, but he collapsed while working in his garden. He was dead before anyone could help. The man remembered the dog, remembered the message. Soon. Now he understood. The dog had been warning him, preparing him, telling him that death was coming, that someone he loved would soon be gone. The man never saw the dog again, but he never forgot it, never forgot that evening on the water, that moment of connection, that brief glimpse into something beyond, something other, something that knows things humans do not know, cannot know. You walk on. The river winds. The path follows, in and out, curving with the water. There is no straight line here, no direct route. You go where the river goes. You follow its logic, its ancient meanderings. Rivers create their own paths, find their own ways. They are patient. They have time, all the time in the world. You pass a windmill, tall and white. Its sails are gone, removed decades ago, but the structure remains. A landmark, a piece of history. Windmills once dotted this landscape, dozens of them, hundreds. They pumped water, kept the land dry, made agriculture possible, made life possible. Without them, this place would still be marsh, still be underwater. The windmills are mostly gone now. Electric pumps have replaced them, but a few remain. Preserved, protected, reminders of how things were, how humans shaped this landscape, bent it to their will. The path leaves the river. It crosses a meadow. The grass is wet, tall. It soaks your legs. The ground squelches underfoot. Water everywhere, just below the surface, waiting, wanting to rise, to spread, to reclaim. There is a bridge ahead, wooden, arched. It crosses a drainage ditch. You can see fish in the water below, small dark shapes, darting, hiding among the weeds. The bridge creaks as you cross. The wood is old, weathered gray, but still solid, still strong. It has carried countless people, countless footsteps. It will carry many more. The river is wider now, much wider. This is the Thames, England's most famous river, the river that flows through London. That defines the capital. That has been a highway for commerce and culture for 2,000 years. But here, upstream, west of the city, it is still relatively rural, still peaceful, still gentle, the river of poets and painters, of lazy summer afternoons, of rowing boats and riverside pubs, of willows and swans and quiet beauty. You are walking the Thames path. A long-distance trail that follows the river from its source in the Cotswolds all the way to the Thames Barrier in London. 184 miles of river walking, sometimes on the north bank, sometimes on the south, crossing back and forth via bridges and ferries, following the water, being guided by it. The river here is about 50 feet wide. Not huge, not dramatic, just a pleasant English river. The water is brown, murky. You cannot see the bottom. Fish live in this water, pike and perch and roach, carp and bream and eels. The eels are mysterious. They hatch in the Sargasso Sea, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Then they swim thousands of miles, following currents, following instinct, until they reach European rivers, including the Thames. They live here for decades, growing, feeding, and then, when they are old enough, they swim back across the ocean, back to the Sargasso Sea, to breed, to spawn, to die. An incredible journey, an incredible life, driven by forces we do not understand, by urges we cannot explain. Willows line the banks. Their branches hang down to the water, trailing in the current. They are beautiful trees, graceful, elegant. Their leaves are long and narrow. They shimmer in the breeze, silver green. The willows are pollarded, cut back every few years to encourage new growth, to harvest the flexible branches. Willow is useful. It makes baskets, makes fences, makes cricket bats. It bends without breaking, flexible but strong, a good metaphor for resilience. There are swans on the river, white swans, mute swans. They glide serenely, necks curved, wings folded. They look peaceful, gentle, but they are not. Swans are aggressive. Territorial. They will attack if threatened. If you get too close to their nest, to their young. They are powerful birds, strong. A swan can break a person's arm with a wing strike, or so the legend says. Whether it is true or not, the warning stands. Admire swans from a distance. Respect them. Do not assume beauty means gentleness. The path is smooth here, well maintained, graveled in places, paved in others. This is a popular walk. People come from nearby towns, from London. They walk for an hour or two, then they stop at a pub, have lunch, have a pint, then they walk back. It is a gentle pastime, a civilized way to spend a day. Very English, very traditional. You pass through a lock, a structure that allows boats to move up and down the river, to navigate changes in water level. The lock is operated by a lock keeper. An old man with white hair and weathered hands. He nods as you pass, friendly but reserved. He has been here for decades, knows every inch of this river, every quirk, every danger. He watches the water constantly, assessing, monitoring, keeping people safe. There are boats in the lock, canal boats, narrow boats, long and low, painted in bright colors, red and green and blue, gold scrollwork on the sides. They are homes. People live on these boats, year-round, moving slowly up and down the river system, living simply, living cheaply, living free. It is an alternative lifestyle, a rejection of conventional housing, of mortgages and property, of being tied down. The boat, people are friendly, they wave, they chat, they seem happy, content with their choice. The black dog appears along the Thames too, though less frequently than in wilder places. The Thames Valley is too civilized, too inhabited. The dog prefers lonelier places, but still there are sightings, occasional encounters, usually late at night, usually in the more remote sections, away from towns and villages, where the river still feels wild, still feels ancient, still remembers what it was before humans. There is a story about a night fisherman, a man who loved to fish at night, who found peace in the darkness, in the quiet, in the patient waiting for a bite. He would set up his equipment on the riverbank, his rod, his tackle, his chair. He would cast his line, then he would wait, sometimes for hours, sometimes catching nothing. But that did not matter. The catching was not the point. The being there was the point. The solitude, the connection with nature, with the river, with the night. One evening he was fishing a stretch of river downstream from Oxford. A quiet spot, no houses nearby, no roads, just river and fields and trees. The moon was up, nearly full. It cast silver light across the water. Beautiful, magical. He settled into his chair, he cast his line. He waited. Hours passed. He caught nothing, but he was not discouraged. He was content, peaceful. And then he heard something behind him. Footsteps, slow and heavy, approaching through the grass. He turned to look. There was a dog, a large black dog, walking toward him. It moved with purpose, with intention, as if it knew exactly where it was going. The fisherman was not alarmed. He liked dogs. He called to it, friendly, welcoming. The dog continued approaching. It came right up to him, close enough to touch. The fisherman reached out. He meant to pat its head, to scratch behind its ears, but his hand passed through the dog's head, through solid-looking fur. His hand felt nothing, just cold air, just emptiness. He pulled back, shocked, confused. He looked at the dog. It looked solid, real, but clearly it was not. It was something else, something other. The dog sat, Right beside his chair, it faced the river. It seemed to be watching, waiting, just as the fisherman was. They sat together, man and phantom dog, for over an hour, neither moving, neither speaking, just being, existing in the same space, sharing the night. The fisherman was not afraid. The dog's presence was calming, comforting even. It felt like companionship, like friendship, like he was not alone after all. Eventually, the fisherman decided to pack up, to go home. He reeled in his line. He disassembled his rod. He packed his gear. The dog watched. When the fisherman stood to leave, the dog stood too. It walked with him, back across the field, toward his car, keeping pace, moving silently. At the car, the fisherman stopped. He looked at the dog. He wanted to say something, to acknowledge it, to thank it somehow. But what do you say to a phantom, to a mystery? He settled for a simple nod. The dog seemed to understand. It turned. It walked back toward the river, back into the darkness. The fisherman watched it go, watched until he could no longer see it, until it had merged with the shadows, become part of the night. He drove home. He told no one about the encounter. Who would believe him? He barely believed it himself. But it had happened. He knew that. He had experienced it. The phantom dog, the companion in the darkness. The Mystery by the Thames. You continue walking. The river winds through meadows, past villages, under stone bridges. It is timeless here. This could be any century. The river looks the same as it did 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. The willows, the swans, the slow brown water, all unchanged, all unchanging. There is a pub ahead. You can see it through the trees. An old inn, white walls, thatched roof, flowers in window boxes, smoke rising from the chimney. It looks welcoming, inviting. You could stop, have a drink, rest for a while. But you do not. You keep walking. The river calls. The path continues. There is more to see, more to experience, more to discover. The land has opened up into wide valleys, the Yorkshire Dales, a landscape of green fields and stone walls, of rivers and hills, of small villages and isolated farms. This is limestone country. The rock beneath shapes everything, creates the character, defines the possibilities. You are walking along a valley bottom. The river flows beside the path, fast and clear. Not brown like the Thames. This water is clean. You can see the stones on the bottom, smooth and rounded, gray and white. The river chatters and splashes. A happy sound, an energetic sound. This is young water, water that has not traveled far, that is still close to its source, still full of life, still rushing toward the sea. The valley sides rise steeply on either side, green slopes dotted with sheep, white sheep, their fleeces thick and woolly. They graze constantly, heads down, moving slowly across the hillside. Sheep have grazed these hills for centuries. They are part of the landscape, part of its character. Without sheep, the dales would look different. The grass would be longer, coarser. The hills would be less green, less tamed. Stone walls climb the valley sides. They divide the land into fields. Each wall is a work of art, built carefully, stone by stone, fitted together without mortar. The walls are old. Some are hundreds of years old. They have survived storms and frost and time. They will survive much more. Stone is patient. Stone endures. The walls are made from limestone, pale gray stone, layered and flat, perfect for building. The stone was gathered from the fields, picked up, carried, stacked, clearing the land and creating boundaries at the same time. Efficient, practical, very Yorkshire. There are barns in the fields, small stone buildings. They shelter livestock in winter, store hay, provide shelter from storms. The barns are simple. Functional. No decoration, no fancy details. Just 4 walls and a roof. but they are beautiful in their simplicity, in their honesty, in their perfect adaptation to purpose. Flowers grow along the path, wildflowers, buttercups and daisies, speedwell and stitchwort, cow parsley and meadowsweet. They create splashes of color, yellow and white and blue. The flowers are small, delicate, but they are everywhere, abundant, generous. They fill the verges, spill onto the path, create a continuous garden. You can hear larks singing, high above, invisible. They hover in the sky, singing continuously, a cascading song, joyful, ecstatic. The lark is the voice of summer, the sound of open country, of high places, of freedom. When you hear a lark, you know you are in good country, in wild country, in country where things are as they should be. The valley narrows ahead, the hills close in. The river becomes louder, faster. You can hear the increase in volume, in energy. Something is changing. Something is ahead. You walk faster, curious, anticipating. You round a bend, and there it is, a waterfall. Not a huge waterfall, not Niagara, but substantial. The river drops perhaps 20 feet over a shelf of limestone. The water crashes and foams. Spray rises, catches the light, creates rainbows. Tiny, fleeting rainbows that appear and vanish. Magic made visible. There's a path down to the base of the falls. You take it. Carefully. The rocks are wet, slippery. You use your hands, grip rocks, steady yourself. The spray reaches you, cool and refreshing. It dampens your face, your hands. It feels alive, vibrant. The waterfall is powerful, hypnotic. You could watch it for hours, the endless flow, the constant change. Water in motion, water being water. The black dog appears in the dales too. Here it is called Padfoot sometimes, or Skriker, names that sound harsh, onomatopoetic, names that capture something of the dog's nature, its strangeness, its otherness. There is a story about a farmer who saw Padfoot near a waterfall much like this one. He was checking on his sheep, looking for strays. It was evening, nearly dark. The light was fading. He heard the waterfall before he saw it, the constant roar, growing louder as he approached. As he neared the falls, he saw the dog, standing on the rocks beside the water, large and dark. Its fur was wet. It looked like it had been swimming, or perhaps it had walked through the spray. The dog was looking at the water, watching it fall. Seemingly transfixed, fascinated. The farmer stopped. He observed. The dog was unusual, larger than any dog he knew, and there was something about its posture, its stillness. It did not move the way normal dogs move, did not fidget, did not scratch, did not sniff, just stood, perfectly still, perfectly focused. The farmer called out. The dog turned to look at him. Its eyes glowed yellow, bright and unnatural. The farmer felt his breath catch, felt his heart skip. This was not a normal dog. This was something else. He knew the stories. Every farmer in Yorkshire knows the stories. This was Padfoot, the black dog, the omen. But the farmer was not afraid. He was practical, grounded. He dealt with life and death every day, lambing and sicken and predators. A strange dog did not frighten him, did not make him run. He stood his ground. He waited to see what would happen. The dog looked at him for a long moment, assessing, judging, and then it turned back to the waterfall. It watched the water for a few more seconds, and then it jumped, right into the falls, into the crashing water. The farmer rushed forward. He expected to see the dog swept away, carried downstream, injured or drowning. But there was nothing. No dog in the water, no dog below the falls, no dog anywhere. It had vanished, disappeared into the water, or through it, or into some other place entirely. The farmer stood there, confused, trying to understand, But there was no understanding, no explanation that made sense. He eventually went home. He told his wife. She nodded. She had heard similar stories. This was not uncommon. The dog appeared. The dog vanished. That was what it did. That was its nature. Nothing bad happened. No death followed, no illness, no misfortune. The farmer and his family were fine. Perhaps the dog was just passing through. Perhaps it had no message. Perhaps it simply wanted to watch the waterfall, to experience it, to be near it. Who knows the mind of a phantom dog? Who can say what it wants, what it thinks, what it feels? You leave the waterfall. You continue up the valley. The path climbs now, ascending the valley side, gaining height. Your legs work hard. Your breathing becomes labored. But you persist. Up and up. Toward the ridge, toward the top. You reach the summit. The view opens up. Valley after valley, rolling away into the distance, green and beautiful, dotted with villages and farms, with walls and barns and sheep. This is Yorkshire, solid, enduring, beautiful in its practicality. In its lack of pretension, in its straightforward honesty. The wind is strong up here. It sweeps across the ridge unobstructed. It carries the smell of grass and sheep, of stone and water, of the earth itself. You breathe deeply, you fill your lungs, you let the wind cleanse you, clear you, wake you up. The landscape has darkened. You are on a moor again, but different from the Yorkshire moors, different from the Peak District. This is Exmoor, in the southwest, Devon and Somerset, where high moorland meets the sea, where red deer roam, where the vegetation is different, the feel is different, everything is different. The heather here is darker, a deeper purple, almost black in places. It grows thick and tall, higher than your knees in places. Walking through it is difficult. The stems catch your legs, slow you down. The heather is old, ancient. Some plants are decades old, growing slowly, spreading slowly, creating a living carpet that has covered this land for thousands of years. The ground beneath is boggy, wet. Water seeps up with every step. Your boots squelch, sink. The peat is deep here. Layers of compressed vegetation. Centuries of dead plants slowly turning into soil, slowly becoming something else. The peat is important. It stores carbon, stores water, creates habitat, but it is fragile, easily damaged, slow to recover. There are ponies on the moor, wild ponies, Exmoor ponies, small and stocky, brown with pale muzzles. They are native to this place, have been here since prehistoric times. They are hardy, tough. They survive winters on the open moor, survive conditions that would kill domestic horses. They are adapted, evolved, perfectly suited to this harsh, beautiful place. You see a group of ponies ahead, 5 or 6, grazing on the rough grass. They lift their heads as you approach. They watch, wary but not frightened. You stop. You do not want to spook them. You watch from a distance. They are beautiful, wild, free, living as they have always lived, following ancient patterns, ancient rhythms. One pony separates from the group, a young male. He trots toward you, curious. He stops a few yards away. He sniffs the air, assessing, deciding. You remain still, non-threatening. The pony takes a few more steps, closer. He is close enough to touch now, but you do not reach out. You let him come to you. Let him decide. He sniffs your hand, your coat. His breath is warm. His muzzle is soft, velvet, soft. He allows you to touch him briefly, to stroke his neck. And then he decides he has had enough. He turns, he trots back to the group. The others welcome him. They continue grazing. You continue walking, both of you going your own way. Brief connection, brief moment of understanding, then separation. This is how it is with wild things, with free things. They come to you on their terms. They leave on their terms. You do not control them. You do not own them. You simply share space, share time, share a moment. The moor stretches on, endless and unchanging, or seemingly so. But that is an illusion. The moor is constantly changing. Seasons change it. Weather changes it. Time changes it. Animals and plants change it. It is dynamic, alive, evolving. You just cannot see the changes. They happen too slowly, too subtly, but they are real. You reach the edge of the moor. The land drops away suddenly. Dramatically, you are standing on a cliff edge. Below is the sea, the Bristol Channel, gray and choppy. White caps flash in the wind. The drop is sheer, hundreds of feet, down to rocks and water. The cliff is eroding. Slowly, pieces fall away, tumble down, are claimed by the sea. The land is shrinking. The sea is winning. This battle has been going on for millions of years. It will continue for millions more. The wind here is ferocious. It roars up the cliff face. It nearly knocks you over. You step back, away from the edge. You find shelter behind a rocky outcrop. The stone blocks the wind, creates a pocket of calm. You rest. You catch your breath. You look out at the sea. The sea is vast, infinite. It merges with the sky at the horizon. You cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. They are the same. Endless gray, endless motion, endless power. The sea is older than the land, older than the cliffs, older than everything. It was here first. It will be here last, long after the cliffs have eroded, long after the moor has been claimed, long after everything else is gone. The black dog appears on Exmoor too. Of course it does. Moors are its preferred territory, its home. Here it is sometimes called the Yeth Hound, or the Wish Hound, names that sound old, that sound like they come from another language, another time. Perhaps they do. Perhaps these names are remnants, echoes of older beliefs, older religions, older ways of understanding the world. There is a story about a shepherd who saw the Yeth Hound on the moor at night. He was searching for lost sheep. They had scattered during a storm. He needed to find them, to bring them back, to make sure they were safe. He had been searching for hours, since sunset. It was now full dark. The moon was hidden by clouds. He carried a lantern. Its light was weak, inadequate, but it was something. As he walked, he heard baying, a hound baying, long and mournful, echoing across the moor. But he saw nothing, no dog, no pack, just sound, coming from everywhere and nowhere. The baying continued, growing louder, growing closer. The shepherd felt fear, deep, primal fear. This was not a normal hunting sound. This was something else, something wrong, something unnatural. And then he saw it, the Yeth Hound, flying through the air, not running, flying. Its eyes burned red, flames trailed from its mouth. It circled above him, round and round, baying continuously. The sound was deafening, overwhelming. The shepherd dropped his lantern. He fell to his knees. He covered his ears, but he could still hear it, could still feel it. The sound penetrated everything, filled everything. The hound circled 3 times, 3 complete circles, and then it flew away, off across the moor. The baying faded, grew distant, disappeared. The shepherd remained on his knees, shaking, terrified. Eventually, he gathered himself. He picked up his lantern. Miraculously, it was still burning. He continued searching. He found his sheep. They were huddled together, frightened, but alive, unharmed. He got them home. He penned them safely, and then he collapsed, exhausted, overwhelmed. His wife found him. She helped him inside. He told her what happened. She crossed herself. She said prayers. She made him tea. She put him to bed. He recovered, but he never forgot the Yeth Hound. The flying demon dog of Exmoor, the harbinger, the omen, the horror. You leave the cliff edge, you walk back inland, away from the sea, back onto the moor. The wind lessens, the roaring stops. You can hear yourself think again, can hear the smaller sounds, the rustle of heather, the call of a bird, the distant bleating of sheep. The sky is lightening, dawn is approaching. Finally, after this long night, after these miles of walking, after all these landscapes, all these encounters, all these stories, morning is coming, light is returning, the darkness is ending, but darkness never truly ends. It waits, it returns, every night, without fail, and with it the possibility of mystery, the possibility of encounter, the possibility of seeing something you cannot explain, something that defies logic, something that persists despite all attempts to explain it away. The black dog walks on, somewhere, in some landscape, on some road, seen by some traveler, or not seen, existing whether observed or not, present whether believed or not, real in some sense that transcends ordinary reality, real in the way that myths are real, in the way that legends are real, in the sense that they affect us, change us, make us wonder, make us question, make us open to possibilities we normally dismiss,